Thanks for joining us again. Jared and I have decided to indulge ourselves a little bit again. No Gibbo, no Matty. Matty's got he's got a lot of things on his plate right now.
Yes.
So we may not hear from him for a little while. He's taking a sabbatical.
Yeah.
But we've decided to continue on with the Friday the 13th. We're up to part 6. Jason Lives. But before we get into that, Jared, let's do the rounds. What have you been watching?
Well, what have I been watching? I watched, started off with a little bit of Detective Pikachu with the kids.
How was that?
Look, yeah, little
I
bit
heard
out there.
shit
Little bit
house,
out
but it
there
was
for me.
reasonably funny.
Yeah, it was okay. It was all right. I didn't love it, but, yeah, kids enjoyed it. So
Yep.
there's that. I knocked over Glow, season 3.
Yeah?
Fuck, what a show. Love it. Absolutely love it. This one gave everyone else a bit of a chance to shine a little bit. Almost all of the characters had a bit of a moment somewhere, and they punch up the cast a little bit. Gina Davis is in there, which I didn't even know until I was watching it. But yeah, it's just an awesome show.
'Cause I'd heard there'd been some mixed reviews on this season,
I dug it. I thought it was really good.
which is it's good to hear that it's...
I don't think there was that much of. I don't even think there was a drop off really. Yeah, if you like the first ones, I don't see what you wouldn't like about this one.
Yeah, I think I should be fine with it.
Yep. Hobbs and Shaw.
Hobbs and Shaw.
That was the big one.
Ooh.
Hey, you know what, mate? I loved it.
Yeah.
I was on board.
Did you love it?
Well, it's no classic, but a solid 7 out of 10. Like I
Exactly what you
enjoyed-
expected?
Yeah, exactly what I expected. I thoroughly enjoyed the cinema experience, mate. Like, it's basically just taking that Fast and Furious formula. You cut away all that family, and it's just the two blokes that didn't like each other, and you knew that was always going to be sort of comedic.
Yeah.
They were going to try and add a bit of comedy in, but they managed to jam a couple of really nice little car chase sequences. And Shaw's sister is fucking awesome. Like, her work in the action sequences is great. So yeah, I pretty much got what I expected. The disappointment, I guess, was
No Vin Diesel?
Idris Elba's character. Well, I didn't really worry too much about that. Idris Elba's character.
Yeah, is he bionic or superhuman or something?
Yeah, but I mean, shit. If you've gone along with the Fast and the Furious stuff up until this point, it's not too much of a leap to go there, So it was just the character was just a little bit boring.
Yeah.
It was essentially, but the bionic stuff actually worked sort of for what they were going for, because there was parts of it where he was sort of like the Terminator in like a chase sequence, and it worked. Except he had a bike that was sort of like, I don't know, it would just kind of fucking just fold up and things when he was riding
Well,
on it.
they have those.
So he could slide under the...
You know, that's what you ride from your car to work.
no,
But, you know,
motorbike.
right.
But I mean, there's some
Right, so what
classic
you're telling me
action
is it was pretty legitimate, like a true story.
yeah, totally realistic, true to life. No, look, if you like the Fast and the Furious stuff, you'll like it. And I know you have been hesitant to jump on board the rest of the Fast and the Furious, mate. But
Very.
trust me, from 5 onwards, that's what it should be. Part 5 is fucking awesome.
So
It's
you're
got some
saying
of the most
1 through
ridiculous
4,
stuff.
1 through 4. Don't worry about
Well,
that.
they're
shit.
all right. They're okay in their own right. But part 5 is when it sort of goes
Tokyo
into
Drift?
heist. Well, it's action stuff, mate. They try to squeeze in a bit of action. If you don't mind the car chases and things like that, you enjoy them to an extent. I didn't dislike any of them, really. But part 5 onwards is bloody awesome.
Because it's all the heists and shit.
Yeah, it's
the
all
whole-
heists. And, I mean, part 5 is some of the most ridiculous stuff I've seen, but it's entertaining as hell. Part 8 was a little bit over the top.
I can't believe we're in part 8.
Well, mate,
Yeah, when we were in Friday the 13th part 8, we were in
I need you to
blowing
watch
up.
it. I need you to watch it so we can discuss a couple of the things that The Rock does.
Okay. In Hobbs and Shaw or in part 8?
In all of them.
All right. Oh, look, I believe they're on stand, so I've probably got 6 months.
take the Blu-rays home, mate. take the box.
I've probably got 6 months before Stan folds
Yeah.
under the
And
weight of
let's
Disney.
not pretend you don't have a bit of a bloody man crush on Statham. You love him.
Oh, I love Statham. Yeah, look,
Yeah.
I can go to Statham. I mean, fuck, I went to the Meg for Christ's sake.
Yeah,
you know
liked
why I
it.
went to
You
the Meg?
enjoyed the Meg.
Statham. I went to the Meg because of Statham, and I got enjoyment out of
True
it.
to life.
True-
Statham
yeah,
working on his
legitimate.
being interrupted in the middle of working on his PhD.
I think that was the best bit about the Meg.
Yeah.
But the Meg worked, and I'm sure that Statham works in.
Debatable.
Statham works. He has a specific lane,
Yeah.
and when he's in that lane, I mean, the Transporter was on the other night,
Yeah.
and I sat and watched part of it just
Yeah.
because I was like, oh yeah, I remember this. This was pretty good.
Mate, Shea Serrano summed it up perfectly on The Ringer when he was talking about, you know, that Hobbs and Shaw lets these two blokes just do what they do best. And he said Statham can give you two things. His range extends to two, and it's hard ass and cranky bloke with a bit of humour.
Yeah.
And that's what he gives you in Hobbs and Shaw.
Yeah, and that works. That
Yeah.
works for him. Yeah, I will do the entire Fast and Furious franchise.
Yeah, if you're not converted, if you don't like at least Part 5 and Part 7, I'd be very surprised.
Okay, I'll look into them.
Beyond that, I was in just a martial arts.
Hell,
Not-
was it a hell or was it a...
I was just in martial arts, fucking top to bottom.
You took a week of getting your head kicked in.
Yeah, pretty much. I watched Revenger on Netflix, which was a Korean one. The lead bloke, had a little bit of Seagal syndrome. He didn't get hit much, but had some pretty effective sequences in there. Not great, but I watched Triple Threat as well.
Oh, yeah, what was that like?
It was okay.
That's on Netflix, is it?
Yeah. Funnily enough, Iko Uwais is the one that comes out a little bit cold on that one, I think, because he doesn't get as much chance to impress as he usually does.
Now, who's in it? It's
Tony Jaa, Iko Uwais, Tiger Chen, Jai White,
Michael Jai White, bringing some
Scott
gravitas.
Adkins,
Scotty Atkins, yeah, he kicks a bit of ass.
and Michael Bisping
From
UFC.
UFC.
Yeah, he's actually alright because he's just a fucking cranky Brit. He
Now-
carries on a bit.
So, how's Tony Jaa going these days? Because, look, if anyone listens to our skin trade episode, we did, I think we may have mentioned that Tony was looking a little bit slower than usual.
Yeah. Tony's the trade wasn't good for Tony.
No, was he... Because he's a bit older,
He's a
Tony.
bit older. He doesn't quite have the athletic kind of element that he once did. Still throwing a lot of elbows.
Yeah, I love that, though. I love that.
Scott Adkins is the one that I thought was the best in this one. He had a couple of sequences that really impressed. They do a couple of smart things, though, with the action stuff. Like they pair up Tony Jaa and Michael Jai White at one point because Jai White is so much bigger than him. So it's kind of cool to see the whole sort of David and Goliath thing going on there. Look, it was okay. I got what I
You don't see him
I
jumping up
got
and
what
down
was
there.
included in my prepaid $10 a month. So after that, I got into a little bit of Bruce Lee. Watched Game of Death.
Is that the one that's the one where he died during?
Yep.
They took that footage
Yep.
and they got in Bruce Lee and
Stitched
Chick
up.
Norris and all them. And
Well, they got in two blokes. I don't know why, but they got in two stunt doubles.
I think it was
One of,
Lee
them
Bruce.
one of them who didn't look a lot like him at all. One of them who kind of did. It was weird. And then they also include a story element where he needs facial reconstruction surgery to explain the change of appearance.
And then those
But
fuckers then took footage
you
from
end
his
up having-
funeral, the
they
stupid
had
pricks.
footage from his funeral, but then you end up having both stuntmen after the facial reconstruction surgery anyway. So I don't know. Look, Game of Death is a shit fest until Lee actually appears, which unfortunately is only about 20 minutes of the movie. But the stuff that he's in is fucking awesome.
Right.
And it would have been awesome, I think.
Yeah.
The stuff that him and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is just, you can see why it's still kind of iconic.
Is that the one with Chuck Norris as well?
No.
Is that
I've started
Big
that.
Boss or
Haven't finished
something?
it. No, that's Way of the Dragon.
Way of the Dragon?
I started.
Is
Way of the
you sure it's
Dragon.
not Exit the Dragon?
No, I think that might have been Bruce Lee or Lee Bruce or Dragon Lee or
Fucking hell. Yeah. So what do you say?
what's
Game of Death,
Game of
just
Death is shit.
fast forward to the good stuff.
basically. So it's essentially when he runs up the stairs. So all the way, the entire movie for fucking near 80 minutes is not Bruce Lee, but a couple of shots where they put his face in or something. At one point, they use a fucking cardboard cutout. it's just disgraceful. But then there's other points where, like, the stuntman will get kicked, and then it'll show Bruce Lee's face and do the whoa. but he's actually clearly in a different room to what the other guys are fighting in. Like, it was in a locker room, and then you see Bruce Lee with this wallpapered background, and you're like,
this sounds fucking awesome. Are you sure you weren't watching, what was that, like Kung Pao?
I could have been. It's on SBS streaming, mate. It's free. Get on board. But yeah, once the stunt double goes up the stairs, and then the next shot is Bruce Lee coming up the stairs, it's fucking cool.
Yeah.
From that point on. I followed that up with The Big Boss.
The Big Boss
used to be my second favourite Lee movie behind Enter the Dragon. I still enjoyed that one because it's him all the way through, thankfully. Yeah. It's just impressive. Had like you can see why he was starting to gain some traction because he had the martial arts skills, but he had a bit of acting
charisma
too.
Karasama.
Hey, Karasama. Well, don't forget he'd been he acted when he was a kid, so he'd been doing it for a long time, and he actually had some level of ability.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Big Boss. That was good.
Happy with it?
Yeah.
And that was it?
Very straight down the line, but very enjoyable. Yeah, that was it.
Didn't you also watch Wu Assassins?
I watched a couple of episodes of Wu Assassins. It was just all martial arts.
Oh, yeah.
Couple of episodes into Wu Assassins.
And how was it?
I don't mind it.
Is it kid friendly?
Probably not. Lots of knives and violence and blood and but the mystical elements are like
probably not. It sounds not at all.
No, not at all. Unless you're a questionable parent.
Unless you're living in my household circa 1987.
Exactly. Just fucking chuck whatever you want. Yeah, look. The mystical kind of elements seem like a kids show or not. They're very, very straightforward. Like some of the parts of the show, you feel like you're watching bloody what were we talking about? Donnie Johnson. You feel like you're watching Nash Bridges or something when they're in the cop shops. But when they bust out the martial arts, it's what you're there for, and you get plenty of that.
Okay, and that's it.
Yep.
Right. I was in TV land for most of my time.
Should have got some kung fu movies, mate.
Yeah, I should have. Well, shit. Maybe I should do that this week. We finished Dirty John.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. Eric Banner is excellent.
Still got a ton of respect for John Meehan.
Zero respect for Johnny Meehan.
Real good bloke.
Actual piece of shit. We watched The Sinner. We actually watched season 2 first because they're only connected by the detective. My brother and his wife had said, look, season 2's good, but season 1's the real winner. So, you watch season 2 first, you get it out of the way. We watched 2. Yeah, it was all right. It was really good for the first 5 episodes where it's kind of keeping you enthralled. And then you kind of find out, they sort of open up what's going on. And not once did we sort of go, oh, I didn't see that coming. It's like as they unravel it, just before they're about to unravel, you go, oh, I reckon this is happening. Yeah. And then it just is, We started watching season 1, and we only ended up watching the first 2 episodes, but it started really interestingly. She basically it's Jessica Biel. She's down on the lake swimming with her kid and her husband, and she's sitting there watching this group in front of her, and she suddenly just gets up with a knife and knifes one of the blokes in front of her. And she says, I didn't know him. I don't know who he is. I'm guilty. But the cop, which is Bill Pullman, starts saying, well, why would you kill him? Like, why? And they start digging into it, and you start finding out that maybe she had some connections to him. It's interesting, but we've only managed to get the first 2 episodes in because Mindhunter Season 2 popped up.
Wrapped you right in.
Oh, mate. Woo.
Love it.
Absolutely brilliant. And it's directed, the first 3 episodes, I think, were directed by David Fincher. And then Andrew Dominic, the Australian bloke, he's directed a handful of them. There's this really awesome kind of atmosphere to the whole thing. It reminded me very much of Seven. But also, it's such a slow burn. Like, there's none of this cliffhanger sort of shit. It just sort of lets things happen and they talk you through these crimes and stuff, and you're just enthralled. And an episode doesn't end, and you're not like, oh, there's a cliffhanger. What's going to happen next? It just kind of just rolls forward. It's really interesting. Really interesting. Definitely worth a look. One of Netflix's best shows, I reckon. One of their originals. We also watched... I watched Afterlife, season 1. Yeah, pretty good. Dark. Perhaps a little bit too dark.
Mm.
You know, lacks a little bit of that's kind of spark that he had in something like The Office.
Yeah.
It just felt a little bit too dark for me. And I ended up watching a show with Nathan Fillion in it, which is now on TV, The Rookie.
The Rookie? Yeah.
By the numbers, but Fillion, mate, he gets me in. He's got tons of charisma, mate. It's the only reason why a show like that survives.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, we have seen that show 1,000 times. Like,
Yeah.
That show is no different to Third Watch or any of those shows that were on previous police procedurals.
Yep.
But he just brings that little bit that's...
A little bit of life, a little bit of spark.
Yeah, a little bit of
I'm
life.
still getting over his performance in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. It's funny.
Yeah, that's right. Wasn't he the fake cop on the TV show?
The TV show.
He's also very funny in Santa Clarita Diet as a head.
Yep.
I ended up watching a couple of films, just some comedy stuff, Planes, Trains and Automobiles. Love that movie.
Going way back.
Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. I love that movie too. And then I ended up watching the American remake of The Intouchables.
Yep.
Starring Kevin Hart and
Cranston?
Bryan Cranston.
Yep.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Actually, Kevin Hart was excellent.
Couldn't be bothered reading your way through.
I've seen the other one. I've seen the French version
that's the
anyway.
better one.
That is the better one, yes. French version is slightly better, but this was fairly down the same line.
Pretty good.
But was quite amusing, had a bit of emotion. You know, Cranston's an excellent actor, but Kevin Hart steps up. You know, he dials down that annoying part of him.
Fuck, you're bagging me for watching Hobbs and Shaw, and you've just dropped the phrase Kevin Hart steps up to describe his
He's
acting.
much better in this, Kevin Hart. He is actually quite good.
All right.
And that was it for me.
Interesting.
Eclectic. Cross the board. What? So, Bozo?
I just feel like you should be watching more martial arts.
Oh
movies.
yeah, true. Look, I probably I slept on that. I accidentally.
But you just need to get a bit of bloody triple threat.
I slept on that. I really need to get into it. If I can find Game of Death, I'm immediately on it.
Readily available. You don't even have to look.
Did you say it was on SBS on demand?
SBS
I've got the app.
SBS has got 5 Bruce Lee movies on there, which is
awesome.
why I'm currently working my way through.
All right, well, better get on
They've
that.
basically got all the later ones except Enter the Dragon.
Well, I saw that recently anyway.
Yep.
All right, let's take a break. Here's the trailer for 1986's Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives.
They thought the nightmare was dead and buried. They were wrong. Jason lives. Happy Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th, Part 6. Jason Lives. Rated R.
Starts Friday, August 1st at a theater near you.
Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives from 1986. Written and directed by Tom McLaughlin, who did One Dark Night, and I believe he did an episode of Freddy's Nightmares. Top shelf stuff, that. It's produced by...
We've never really had the chance to relive it, have we?
Oh, no, you can't find
Don't
it
pretend if
anywhere.
they released it on Blu-ray tomorrow, you'd purchase.
Blu-ray?
Guaranteed.
I want that on streaming. Come on, Amazon Prime, what's your game?
You watch it.
Produced by Don Behrens, who he produced Top Dog starring Chuck Norris. I don't know, have you seen that?
Heavy hitter.
Have you seen that?
No.
They also really take the piss out
that
of
was
him.
basically Turner and Hooch with Chuck Norris.
I
wasn't
think
it?
so.
Sounds like a winning pitch. Look, Turner and Hooch, but get me Chuck Norris. That's not getting you a green light. That's getting you thrown out of the fucking
Yeah,
studio.
we'll give you $500K to make that.
Hey, everyone's throwing you out except Aaron Norris.
Yeah, that sounds great. I'll direct it. Donnie Behrens takes a lot of stick in Crystal Lake Memories.
Does he?
They really give him some stick.
Yeah, I
Because
haven't.
they're saying, the bloke's constantly petty pitching and all this shit.
I've got to go back and read that, to be honest. It's
Yeah,
been a
they
few
really
years
do
since
rip
I've
into
read
him a little bit. It stars Thom Matthews as Tommy Jarvis, Jennifer Cook as Megan Garris, David Kagan as Sheriff Garris, and CJ Graham as Jason. The budget was $3 million. The box office was $19 million in the United States. Now, a little bit of trivia, which I think is really interesting. I would love to have seen. The original script contained material that alluded to Jason's father, which to date remains the closest the series has ever come to shedding some light on this character.
Around the graveyard, wasn't it?
In the script, Pamela's headstone is next to Jason's, a reference to the fact that someone paid to have Jason buried, explaining why he was not cremated, as they said in Part 5. No one was listening to anything anyone said in Part 5, so I'd forgotten about that before Part 6 even came up. There's also a final scene where Jason's father visits Jason's grave and pays Martin, the caretaker.
Mm-hmm.
And it would have been a really cool idea. But they sort of thought you're kind of splitting the franchise a little bit. You're bringing in a character that we haven't seen. Where do we go from here if we were to have that? And they chose not to have it.
Now, I can't remember if it's CJ Graham, but I think it is that's playing Elias Voorhees in that fan film that's being made at the moment, isn't it?
I think he is.
So that's kind of a nice touch, given that
And
info.
Thom Matthews was in that Never Hike Alone.
Yeah. He was
Right at the end, the paramedic
Ambo.
at the end, So, some of these guys are popping up in fan films and stuff, which I think is great.
Yeah.
If
There was
people want to
actually
put Jason out there, the actual filmmakers don't want to. They're too busy fucking pinching pennies.
Yeah, that's right. There's actually a little 20-minute YouTube doco on Steve Dash.
Oh,
Because
really?
he died, obviously, and they put this little YouTube doco together about him, which has some of that stuff. Like, he was working on, I think it's the same fan film.
Yeah.
So they put a bit of that together, which was interesting to see. His interactions with the people that were putting it together and their willingness to kind of do that stuff, which is cool.
Yeah. All right, Jared, your thoughts? Friday the 13th, Part 6.
I think it's probably my favourite. Well, that changes, when you watch the series, you just got to, mix them up a little bit.
Last week I thought Part 5 was my favourite.
Usually 5 and usually 4 and 6
Yeah.
swap places at the spot. Occasionally Jason X will nudge its way up there for a week or two. I think this one usually comes out as my favourite because it was the first one, obviously, to take that path of, it's getting a bit ridiculous now, so we have to kind of use that, and I thought they did it well. Like they found a couple of places for a little bit of comedy, but then when you look at it, the story with Tommy and the sheriff and everyone, it's actually played pretty straight, and it works pretty well. So I think it's one of the more enjoyable. Some of the kills and some of the setups and that sort of thing aren't necessarily the most memorable through some parts of the movie. I think that's where Part 4's got it covered, but I kind of have them neck and neck, really.
Yeah.
So it's 4.
Yeah.
4 out of 5. Again, I know that it wouldn't rank that high if I was just looking at every little technical aspect of the movie and whatnot, but as a Friday fan, that's where I see it. 4 out of 5.
Yeah, I'm 4 out of 5 as well. I think along with Part 4, it's the best, but for totally different reasons. Part 4 gives you classic slasher film, but still keeps the sort of the scary, menacing part of Jason. This takes Jason into totally different territory. It's about having fun. And in a way, Jared, there were parts of it I felt it feels a bit like an action film. You got car chases, and you got several car chases involved. You got crashes with the RV.
Yep.
You've got the finale for me. There's fire. There's wrestling. They're underwater. She then cuts his throat.
Yeah.
That stuff was great. It was super exciting. Like, it was really well done.
And it actually, Jason actually does kind of act like a zombie in parts of this one too, like when he's walking into the water and that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So they knew that they were on a hiding to nothing because Jason had to be resurrected, but they did it in a really clever, really kind of, I think, fun way.
Yeah.
And I feel it's disappointing the film didn't get the kind of kudos it actually deserved. It's actually getting it now, because
a bit
people are
more.
looking back on it now and saying, well, geez, this was kind of meta before Scream and all these other films were, it was kind of ahead of its time.
Yep.
It's a real winner for me. It's 4 out of 5 for sure. the opening, like for me, is it feels totally different to every other Friday, basically.
Yeah,
It
certainly
has-
the ones that came before it, for
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, the later ones kind of do a little bit.
They picked up a little bit in some aspects, but I don't think any of them did it as successfully as this one.
No, because this one's got gothic tinges and stuff.
Yeah,
like it
yeah.
feels the gothic style, and it's the humour is a welcome addition for me.
Yep. Well, I mean,
You had to take the
thing
piss.
is- well, that's the thing. I mean, Tom McLaughlin only really did what the audience was already kind of doing in some ways. By the time you get, by the fourth movie, it was just like, it's a little bit ridiculous that he can keep coming back. So you kind of, by addressing that rather than forging on with this, Jason's alive again, like by addressing it and just saying it's a little bit ridiculous, but hey, we're going to run with it. I think that was one of the most successful things that they did.
Yeah, and I love the fact that they bring him back like Frankenstein.
Yeah.
The shot of lightning in the chest.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
then you knew he's a zombie.
Well, that's
he is
it.
zombified.
It kind of goes to that classic monster territory.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, well, Jason's a monster. We can accept that a bit. And then they play with it. It means it allows them to ramp up the things like him getting shot and just walking it off without it being just totally ridiculous. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, that's the path you're taking. It kind of refreshed him.
We already knew from 5 minutes in that was the path.
Yeah.
Jason was unstoppable.
Yeah,
And
I
he
mean,
even
plus-
says it, doesn't he? He says to him, he's even more powerful now.
Yeah, when he brings him back, I mean, the man's nothing but a bloody husk.
Yeah, I know.
Barely even that.
He's got no fucking blood in his veins. He's got nothing coursing through his veins. Unless it's maggots.
They bring him back, and so you run with it and you have a bit of fun rather than just.
And look, who didn't want to see Horshack have his heart ripped out?
That was awesome, especially the fact that they went to the lengths of having him comment on his heart.
Oh, I can't is anymore.
Okay, I love too how he races up and hits him with the shovel, and and then it's like Jason barely flinches and just turns around. And,
Would you have liked to have seen Travolta have his heart ripped out
well,
in a Jason picture?
I don't know.
Because he was circling
if
the
he was-
drain as well in
Yeah,
'86.
maybe if he was playing, a character similar to the Fanatic or something, it was, possibly. That.
Shit, I better put that trailer on Facebook just for some laughs. Everything, like part 4, like we said with part 4, everything's just that little notch better. The writing's better, the direction's better, the production design's better,
Yeah.
the effects are better, the acting's better. Like,
Yeah.
like I think Tom Matthews is really good as Tommy. He's actually he's by far the best because there's a little bit of charisma and a bit of that about him. But I actually had because I didn't think greatly about anyone other than Tommy in this film before I watched it again the other night. Big fan of Megan. I think she's one of the best final girls out there in the series for me
Yeah.
because she's slightly different and she's kind of got that sass and that kind of shit to it, which I found okay. And I like the kind of the flirtatious relationship between them.
Yeah.
Not sure you'd want your daughter near someone you're accusing of being a mass murderer,
No.
but
She makes questionable choices.
she does. But I kind of dug that. She was more the one who was pushing things forward.
Yeah, I kind of like the whole kind of rebellious streak.
Yeah, and she
Angle.
pushed him forward
Yeah.
somewhat. Yes, he always had a plan, but he kept having those things where he'd say to her, "Look, you can't come. This isn't," and then she just kind of blow him off. So I thought she was pretty good. But yeah, everything's just a step above,
Yeah.
as opposed to say something like Part 5. This one looks like Ben-Hur in comparison to Part 5.
How dare you?
I mean, that's how far 5 dropped, because 4 was so good, then 5 just bottomed out.
Yeah, 5's a stinker. We
Yeah.
know that.
It's good for comedic
Stinks like demon after a great adventure laughers.
Yeah, are you talking about noted takeaway food spruiker and demon?
Yeah.
No wonder he's having a fucking nasty shit. He ate everything known to man in that car.
Yeah.
But yeah, 5 had kind of dropped the ball substantially. 6 picked it back up and then took things up another level.
Yeah.
So
It was just a little bit more polished.
yeah,
And Tom McLaughlin tried to ramp up the tension a few times with those scenes rather than just having Jason bust in and kill everyone straight away. But he also did that too.
Yeah.
Like he gave you a bit of
of
both. Like he tried to work it from both angles there, which I appreciated.
Yeah, I did too. I remember way back when I first saw 6, I thought the James Bond opening was fucking stupid.
Yeah.
But I loved it. Once
Yeah.
again, it just kind of...
It fits.
It winked at you.
Yeah,
It said, this
exactly.
is not to be taken seriously.
Exactly. And I mean, James Bond was kind of similar in a way.
Yeah.
Like the over the top nature of it was just like, hey, you can't believe that any of this shit would happen, but that doesn't mean it's not going to be a rollicking ride and a bit of fun, and
Yeah.
that's kind of...
It's kind of what they were going for, and I think it really works because it, once again, within those that opening sequence and then the credits, you understand the guy's he's unstoppable zombie now.
Yeah. I mean, I had a friend who's really into horror, and he just hated this one. And he's like, oh, the comedy didn't work and that sort of stuff. And I'm like, but do you honestly think that watching those 4 films beforehand, that there was nothing that you thought that's fucking ridiculous and didn't have a laugh at? Because there is, in every one of them. There's
Crispin Glover's dance move. for
Yeah,
starters.
exactly. Crispin Glover's dance move, Harold on the crapper, like there's just silly things.
David selling fucking egg rolls.
There's silly things in all of them.
Yeah.
And if you got upset that Tom McLaughlin kind of purposely made it silly in a couple of parts, I'm just like, I don't get that, because he also gave it the proper respect and tried to hit the marks that you wanted.
Yeah.
You know, you had all the scenes,
But he wanted to play with it.
yeah, which I thought was totally fine. You know?
Maybe I'm being, and look, this is just slightly going off on a tangent, but maybe people would say I'm probably a little bit hard on 5 because, in a way, 5, the guilty pleasure about 5 is it's just so funny. Like,
Well, that's
you
it.
have so much
That's
fun
why-
laughing at it.
That's why I go back and still watch 5 occasionally. Because I don't watch it because it's the best one in the series, not by any stretch, but you get laughs out of it. That's why that's the biggest appeal for me now, because you go back and you got Demon, you got got the killer every time he's actually on screen.
Are you talking to me?
He's skittish and jumping every time something happens. Like, I don't know how you can watch it and not laugh. Really.
Are you talking to me, Sheriff? He's got fucking bloody clothes. Yeah. Like, people would argue the same thing, that I'm being too hard on 5. And so you got to look at it from the perspective of 5's kind of like amusing, like the whole time. But 6 is played with a little bit of humour, but does try to give Jason that interesting, like, still keep him interesting on screen.
Yeah.
So they have a couple of really good sequences. The bit where he actually walks in, and sorry to jump ahead, but he walks in on the little girl.
Yeah.
And he stands over her, There is a little bit of tension there. For a second you think, shit, he's not going to kill her, is he?
Yep.
And
that's all the shit that was missing in the other one.
yeah, and there's a creepiness to that. His mask is right up there and you can hear him breathing and that. And it's like...
Yeah. And even scenes like where the cop is outside and the bushes are, going, and you're thinking he's going to come out, but he does enough. You're thinking, oh, is he going to come? Is he coming out now? Like you're kind of on the edge of your seat.
Yeah.
Which you didn't get in something like 5.
No.
Unless it was a toilet seat.
What's that bloke doing pulling out the... I do love it. He pulls out that little mini gun out of the glove box. Look, hey, let's not do anything. I've got the remedy. I've got a cat's gun here.
Yeah.
And then he just gets speared and thrown over Jason's head.
Yeah. I kind of love that sequence because I barely even remembered it.
Yeah.
Other than Jason standing in front of the car, but I loved how he's just sort of standing still, and they're kind of sitting there like, "What do we do?" They'll throw it in reverse, and they start going in reverse, and then we're going to get bogged. We'll scare him. We'll drive up up to him, and then he just goes and pierces the tire.
Yeah.
And you're like, "Oh shit!" As you said, it unfolds. There's a comedic element with the gun. It's just spot on because they're nothing characters. They're absolutely nothing characters, but the sequence is fun and you get the payoff at the end.
Yeah.
Like, I just thought that was far better. Things like that were crafted far better than in some of the other Fridays.
Yeah. It was a little bit shrewder, a bit smarter about how it did things. as I was saying before about Megan, the other thing I liked about that, she does a lot of the initiating of the romance. Yes, it's poor choices. Yeah, potential Jason suspect, Tommy Jarvis, is not exactly the bloke to be fucking dating, is he?
No.
But the relationship between them felt kind of nicer than, say, something like Teddy in fucking 4. You know, that kind of misogynistic
She
type
wasn't
of...
put upon,
Yeah.
obviously.
No, but the thing was, she was instigating things with him.
Yeah,
like the thing in the car, put your head between my legs, and then she says something like, "This is what I was after."
Yeah.
You know?
But she's making all the choices too. Like, she's making the choices, regardless of whether they're the good choices or the bad choices. It's like, okay, she's a character who's been given the option to make the choices.
Yeah.
Right? And it runs all the way through it. Like
Exactly.
the girl in the lady at paintball who makes the other blokes look fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
Then the bloke that's hacking at the tree,
Bloody
whinging
women.
about bloody women, and then
It's his arm.
obviously, as you said, it's a little bit meta before that stuff was going on.
Yeah.
Like Tom McLaughlin's clearly commenting on, as you said, the misogyny
of those type of films.
Yeah.
It's
so
also the reason why the film has no nudity.
Yeah.
No nudity at all.
Yep.
It has one sex scene, but it's played for laughs.
Yeah, because the bloke is acting like, he's wailing and kind of like, it's fucking ridiculous.
The
Like,
look
it's
on
kinda
his face
funny.
when she says, "Keep it up to the end of the song." He goes, "How long?" She goes, 10 more minutes. And he goes,
Yeah, but he's kind of like, I don't know, it's hilarious because he's like thrusting his chest out and he's going,
yeah, it's kind of like he's flipped it a little bit on its head a touch about how the female characters, they have taken the lead a little bit.
yeah, and
He kind of
honestly-
fluffs it near the end.
quite honestly, Court is the fucking bimbo character.
Yeah.
He's just a fucking bozo. He's an idiot. But as you said, you get a few laughs. He's played for some laughs, and
For some reason, I always laugh at him. What are you doing back there? Taking a dump?
that was awesome. After one of the kind of iconic Jason moments.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a nice little add-on on top of that. Well, actually, I don't know why, but I got a real laugh this time out of him gibbering about the Native Americans and the rock piles and shit.
Comes
The
along,
kids are
knocks the
going-
rocks over, doesn't want to...
Yeah.
Like, what the...
The kids are sitting there going, "This guy doesn't know what he's talking about." He's like, "Hey, you don't know nothing about Indians. Like, let me tell you." It's just like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, I really like that idea of taking it, especially in 1986, where we were in the height of the slasher films going round, and all of them were very, violence against women and all that. Yeah, there was a lot of talk about that. I don't subscribe to that. I never have. That's not. The Siskel and Ebert kind of rhetoric isn't really for me.
Yeah,
But I can see, you look back on him, you can see that the male characters dominate these films and the women are usually killed, right? In this one, that's what I liked about Megan. She was actually initiating everything. He was kind of being led a little bit by her.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a plan.
And he kills way more blokes in this one.
Yeah, heaps more. I mean, all the paintballers are guys except one.
Except one. The campers, you've got Court.
So all the coppers are all fellas.
Coppers are all,
Yeah, there's quite a few men killed in this one. But I just really liked that. I thought that was cool. The triple beheading.
Yeah.
I love that.
The whole paintball sequence, like, it's such a random way to get some fodder in there.
Yeah.
But this is where the comedy sort of worked, because it was entertaining. Like, those characters were just there.
She's a damn company exec.
Yeah, they were just there to get a couple of kills in while Jason was being kept out of the Tommy storyline.
Yeah.
So they all still thought it was Tommy, but you still needed Jason to off a couple of people.
Exactly.
So they were just there, but that whole sequence was entertaining.
Yeah.
It was fun to watch.
And look, again, dialogue-wise, it worked.
Yeah.
It felt natural. Put on your headbands.
And it wasn't
Put
just
on their
nothing.
wet
It wasn't
bed.
just nothingness. It wasn't just, this is how we need to do it. We need to get a couple of characters doing this, which Part 5 is massively guilty of. Part 6, they've, you know, they tried to add a little bit of comedy. They tried to have these people doing something we haven't seen.
There was a little bit of flavour to each character.
Yeah.
Just a little.
Yeah.
And when you've only
like
got a couple of minutes.
and moaning about the sandwich, and the other bloke going, "This is war," and all this carrying on, and they both get shot, and he's still whinging, and the other bloke's still saying, "I'm hungry." Like,
yeah, that's right.
it was kind of
Just a little bit of spice, Jared.
Yeah.
They flavoured the gumbo up a little bit.
Just
on those
a little
ones.
bit. Unlike the bloody swill that Ma was cooking in the previous film, they added a bit of flavour to this one.
Come on in and eat my fucking stew. I'll tell you what, mate, the guy who's cleaning out the chicken fucking coop will eat it. In between watching people have sex. Sorry, I digress. Back to 5.
Yeah.
Look, it's comedic gold, 5.
As you said, 5 had just a little bit of fucking smuttiness.
I think there was urine in that fucking in that gumbo.
Well, Ma was bloody spitting everywhere too, so that would have got in there.
I actually really liked having kids, the actual kids at the camp.
Yeah,
because it just added that another raise of the stakes.
Yeah, the one girl that keeps seeing him is kind of reminiscent of Tommy Doyle in Halloween. Like, you know, seeing the boogeyman, that sort of thing. It was, I
but also what I liked about it was it gave the counsellors something to fight for.
Yeah, exactly.
And something to protect.
Yep.
You actually had to protect something. You weren't just sort of wandering around the camp doing it up or whatever.
Yeah.
Or, you know, mental health institute down by the lake. So...
Let's not get into that.
Fuck, we should do a follow-up episode on that because it's just rich. It's rich with comedic opportunities.
Yeah, I know people that work in mental health, so perhaps we'll get them to, you know, give their diagnosis on the people that were actually in their place.
The dialogue, I talked about the dialogue before. There is just some real gems, and they feel like 40s gangster film sort of stuff, like Hit the Noise and the Cherries.
Yeah.
That's what we call screwing the pooch. I am this punk. You know?
Yeah.
And then my personal favourite, wherever the red dot goes, you bang.
Yeah.
Like
I had a little giggle too about, you know, if I see you in this town again, you'll be wearing your ball earrings.
Of course, the lowbrow humour gets you every time.
Lowbrow gets me. Like that's lowbrow 40s gangster humour.
Yeah, I just love that because it gave it once again a signature style of it.
Yeah,
it's another signature piece that he added on top of the gothic nature of some of the shots. And he actually said one time, if you watch it in black and white, it would feel like a B horror film from the 50s. You know, that would be, and that's a great way to look at it. You know, I think he's done a really good job to give it an aesthetic and a signature style that isn't at all in several of the others. Like, I mean, you look at
Part 5.
You look at 3, 5, even 8. They don't have any flavour. They are just the template delivered, with what fans should expect. That's basically what you're getting, and that's why 6 works for me.
In general, I actually really like the sheriff.
Yeah.
Like going back and seeing it this time, it's like, okay, so initially you're not down on the guy because he's making the right choices. He's actually kind of nice to Tommy in his own way and gives him a couple of chances and then really only locks him up when it's like what any reasonable fucking lawman would do.
Yeah.
And then he's a stumbling block. But even then, you get the heroic qualities of him trying to save his daughter and save the kids.
Yeah.
So the whole way through, even when he was up against Tommy, I still liked him. I think they did a really good job of not just making him this frustrating character who just wouldn't listen.
He's just in the way and just desperate to cock things up.
They put him in the way, but they actually gave him... I'm not saying it's like some grand characterization or, you know, some you know, fantastic piece of writing, but they gave him enough there that you were still on the guy's side.
Yeah. And I think his performance is actually very good.
Yeah, he's a better actor than you used to in this sort of fare.
Yeah, look, he's a bit more seasoned.
Yeah.
I think he's a bit more seasoned.
Grizzled?
Yeah, he's grizzled. And apologies for using so many metaphors about, herbs and spices to explain this film, but
Yeah, you're cooking up a fucking cigar style.
is it fair to say he's salty, Jared?
Yeah, he's a little bit salty. He's probably been overcooked slightly. A little bit crispy.
He's been seared on both sides, I think it's fair to say. But I believe he was actually an acting coach.
I'm going to start calling you Casey Ryback.
I think he was actually an acting coach. That was
Yes.
what it said in Chris Lake Memories. And some of those people in the film had worked with him. So maybe that's
They
the
were
reason
coached.
why it felt, and coached by him, yeah. So maybe that's why it felt a little more natural between some of those characters. I'll tell you another big thing about this one. Likeable characters.
Yep.
Not assholes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not wall-to-wall assholes.
Yeah.
Anyone who's an asshole is kind of only mildly in the film, or they're an asshole who you're supposed to laugh at.
Yeah.
So, the deputy.
The deputy, though, even he doesn't come across as an asshole the whole time.
No.
He comes across as a guy who's trying to do his job right, but just slightly misguided,
Yeah. And so they did a really good job, again, of infusing it with people that you're supposed to like
Yeah.
and actually do like.
Yeah. for the
Which is
most part.
good.
I actually, going back a little bit, wonderful to see another classic example of the well-adjusted, completely normal cemetery caretaker in film.
I love that bloke though when he goes, dig him up, and he fucking immediately goes for a bottle of grog and goes bang, just belts down.
And then drops,
Dig him up.
what do you think I am? Some sort of fart head? Right, probably not the best bit of dialogue in the film.
But still, I love him. I loved him, mate. He was great.
Yeah, he's
Again,
it's
small role, but does what
yeah,
it's supposed to do.
and the kill for him too. I really loved how he throws a bottle and then just kind of stands there waiting for it to smash. And obviously, it doesn't.
Yeah, and then he just cops it in the neck.
Yeah, that
But see, again, I even like that bit where Tommy had dug him up, and Martin could see that the grave was partially open, and Jason's foot was sticking out.
Yeah.
and he just assumes it's Jason.
Yeah,
And doesn't bother to check it out. And I like the fact that that Horseshack fell in there.
yeah,
So it kind of just again explains why no one's fucking checking it out.
yeah.
Nobody's looking. They're just covering him over.
Should have known, mate. It's not his boot's not full of maggots like Jason's was.
Yeah. The guy. That guy doesn't look like a husk. He looks like he may have some entrails.
There's a little bit. There's a little bit of skin there.
Alice Cooper. See, this is another thing, mate. You throw in a bit of that. You chuck in a couple of Alice Cooper tracks.
Yeah, including one that sounds for all money like a fucking Poison song.
Is that the Teenage Frankenstein, or is it the Hard Rock Summer?
Hard Rock Summer.
Hard Rock Summer.
Sounds just like Poison.
Yeah. But back then, 86, you're talking rock and roll, a hair metal rock was going on. Alice Cooper was big.
Yep.
Yeah, it made sense. And I'm a Teenage Frankenstein guy. The one that's playing in the RV.
I'm a man behind the mask guy.
Yeah, it depends on which version you get. The one that's got
Any
a bit
version
more
will do, mate.
pump to it
Little
is
more
better.
little more pepper.
Yeah, if
A little bit of spice, a little bit of chili on that one.
stop it. Yeah, the one that's got a little bit more pepper is the better version. There's two, I believe.
Yep.
I think that the less the non-peppered version
I'll
is
take
on
either.
Spotify.
I'll take either.
Yeah, I'll take it. But I like that, chucking Alice Cooper in with a horror film makes sense.
Yeah.
Like it makes sense.
Yep.
It's not like plucking someone from somewhere and just going, oh, they don't really fit this mold, but we'll chuck them in here. So I like that. I thought that was good. As I said before, the movie never drops pace. It's 85 minutes and it's pretty sharp 85. It never runs out of any steam.
No.
And partially
greatly.
because I think they've gone slightly actionish with the film.
But as we were saying, when they had the sequences where Jason was still on the periphery, where they still didn't believe Tommy, where Tommy was being blamed for it all, they still found those little things for Jason to do to kind of punch it up a little bit. And then, as you said, when everyone becomes aware that Jason's there, it really kind of ramps up.
But I like
even
that you
before
throw
that-
in a couple of car chases.
car chases,
and
that's it.
I must admit, I could not stop laughing at the sequence where that Megan and Tommy are trying to outrun the cops, and he goes, "I got the license plate on the car. What about the make? Oh, I got the whole enchilada."
Yeah.
And then when they finally stopped them, she's sitting there like that, and the father's got the shotgun just near the door, and she goes, "End of the line," and Tommy's head just comes up and out of between the legs. It's like fucking good on you, mate.
The look on his face is spot on.
Shit.
But yeah,
He thinks I'm a mass murderer and trying to sleep with his daughter.
So they do a good job of that, as you said.
It kind of flashes. It goes quickly.
Yeah.
It doesn't sort of get bogged. Like 5 got bogged. The thing about 5, fuck, why?
There's a lot of.
I guess
There was a lot of bog in 5.
the thing about 5 was you had more kills than in any other Friday film, but yet it was super boring and super slow at times, and that's unacceptable when you've got 20 odd kills. It really should be swiftly paced, and 6 made up for that. I mean, I think 6 has 16 kills or something still. It's quite a substantial body count, but not at the higher echelon. So it's really well paced for mine. You hit the nail on the head. There's no absolute showstopper kills. You know, nobody's eyeballs getting popped out. No one's having their being belted, having their head belted off. No one's getting belted in a sleeping bag. You know,
Yep.
It doesn't have any of those iconic ones. But you know, I love it. Jason's all hands, mate.
Yeah,
yanking
yeah.
women out the window and twisting their head off.
The one in the camper van, obviously.
Yep.
Pushing the head in.
He squeezes one guy's braids out and then bends the sheriff up like
Yeah.
2 minutes later.
Yeah.
It's like the guy's he's just on a bit of a tear.
The sheriff is the one that I don't know. It doesn't come up quite enough in the Jason's greatest hits conversation.
You're a man?
Folding a bloke in half, literally.
That's high on your agenda.
That's a good one. It's a good one. Especially, just to use a bit of your language again, he was copping a bit of curry before that. he'd been belted around the head with a rock. Still managed to fold the sheriff in half.
I still think they should have had a come across him on the ground. I would like to have seen that.
Yeah. It was just folded up like a camp chair. It was brilliant. Yeah, that would have been a funny shot. His head in there in some sort of, writhing pain or whatever with his feet next to it.
Yeah, they missed out on that one. That could have been funny. I really liked the sequence where the girl tucks the little girl into bed and she stands up and Jason's just at the window right there. And then she's walking through the middle of the cabin checking on the kids and he's mirroring her just outside the cabin.
Yep.
Watching her. And again, there's a little bit of tension to that because you think she's going to come out through the door and he's going to be right there. But he's not. And I like that. Then a few minutes later, she's back in her cabin. The door swings open. And then it swings closed. And then she goes to close it and he busts in, They kind of play a little bit with it, with the conventions.
Yep.
And I kind of like the fact that they'd done all these things where, they've bent blokes in half and cut 3 heads off at once and all this ripped blokes' arms off. But then they kill her, but they barely show it.
Well, that's where they did it. Around those camp and cabin sequences, they actually managed to wring a little bit of the tension out there, which was good.
But, he kills her, you don't see it, and then all you see is the aftermath, which is just blood everywhere.
Yeah.
You know that she's been absolutely hacked to pieces.
Yep.
Speaking of husks, fuck, she would have been asked. But I like that, a little bit of restraint. Again, taking a different approach rather than going for, okay, well, we have to make this gorier and gorier.
Yeah.
We've already done all this. Let's make this one the worst, type of thing. So I like that. He showed a bit of restraint, showed a little bit of, care for the what he was going for.
Yep.
Which I thought was really good.
Agreed.
The 2 young boys, they're only in it for like 3 minutes, but they rip out a couple of awesome lines. Like there's the one with Court where he's telling him about the Indians, and then the kid just goes, "If the rest of it's going to be like this, we're in for a rough week, dude." And then later on he goes, what does he say to him? He says to the kid when Jason starts killing everyone, they go and put the boys in with the girls.
Yeah.
One of the kids goes, "So what do you think?" And the other kid goes, "I think we're dead meat." And then it comes back, and then one of the kids goes, "So what did you want to be when you grew up?"
Good.
I just love that. He was only like a couple of minutes to those kids.
Yeah.
They were minor characters, but again,
But that's
just
the
a
thing.
couple of
As
little
you were
laughs.
saying, they're not nothing characters.
Yeah.
Those couple of lines are kind of memorable.
Yeah.
So they're sort of none of it's just tossed aside as this is just we've got to get through a couple of minutes to get back to Jason. It's actually treated like let's try and make this entertaining.
I think that's the overarching big positive from it is they treat the characters as important as Jason, rather than we have to get to a death. Somebody has to die. Yes, he does that, but he does it in such a way that you at least feel something for the characters and you like them.
Yep.
I actually thought the finale, this is my final like, the finale is actually exciting. You know, it's not just someone standing in front of Jason. Even part 4 has a very small chase, a couple of little sort of jolt scares where he busts in on him, and then it ends with her and him facing off in the living room,
Yeah.
and then Tommy coming in.
The big difference being the kind of nod to part 2, I guess, where she's imitating.
And I'm not saying I didn't like that. It worked for 4.
Yeah.
It worked for 4. But this one felt like they were trying to sort of spread it out and get into a little bit of action territory.
Yeah.
So the finale has that.
While still giving us those nods, like the Jason jumping out of the water in a pose that's pretty similar, you know, when he's jumping onto the boat.
Yep. And I just love it. He sets fire to the water around the boat, and then Jason, he at one stage he's hovering over one side of the boat thinking Jason's going to come up, and then he comes up from behind him.
Yep.
All that stuff's great. And then the fact that they actually get both Tommy and Megan involved in Jason's death rather than just having Tommy fight it out with him. You know, like Tommy puts the thing rock around his neck, but then Jason strangles him, and then she has to come to his rescue, uses the boat propeller on Jason's neck. So I like that again. You're getting both your final protagonists involved.
Yes.
But yeah, I think it's a really good finale.
Yeah, I thought it was good, and it gives you that iconic kind of Jason under the water with the chain around the neck finish, which is one of the more memorable ones again.
Yeah.
So,
any other likes for you, man?
No,
Key likes?
we've covered that all fairly well.
All right. Dislikes.
Not many.
Not a lot, but there's a couple of things I didn't go for. I'm not quite sure why we had to see Jason's eyes open seconds after he's been electrocuted. Like, to me, that's a jump scare in the making. You know, it's a decent one.
Yeah.
He gets jolted, and then suddenly you see his eyes go, and you know he's alive. So there's no tension in that.
No, I did like the visual.
The visual was cool.
The visual of his eyes, but yeah, you're right. It kind of takes. I mean, we knew we were getting there, so I guess that's why I forgive that one a little bit.
Yeah.
And they did try to wring that tension a bit later on. We knew. I mean, it's called Jason Lives.
Yeah,
we knew he was coming back.
Of course,
so,
but
you could have, as you said, you could have
just grabbed me another jump scare.
I just think. Yeah, I wasn't too down on that because when the lightning hits the spike, you know he's
he's alive.
So,
based on the laws of the human body, I'm not sure how, but
we're not looking too deep.
I'll let that go.
We already know that the bloody Crystal Lake medical practitioners aren't they're not paying attention either. So they wouldn't know.
I'm looking at you, Axel, in part 4.
Yeah, they wouldn't know either.
Yeah, exactly. So I just felt it was a missed opportunity. And for a director who'd pretty much got all these opportunities and taken them, it just felt a little bit. He could have got something more there.
Yeah.
I was not a fan of the shots of Jason striding through the forest in broad daylight. He kind of looks like Bigfoot. He's fucking wandering through the fucking wilderness, like a man on a mission.
Yeah, probably could have done without it.
Plus,
Maybe he was training for the bloody Crystal Lake 10K as well.
well, let me tell you something, mate, because I believe that was not CJ Graham. That was their initial guy.
Mm.
He'd been eating some pies. Well, if you look closely, yeah,
Well, that's why he was in training. So when
he was out of shape.
Later, when you see him later, he's dropped a couple of kilos.
Obviously, when Jason was buried under the ground, he'd got to eating somehow.
yeah.
Sure how.
That's a large shirt full of maggots you got there, Jason.
Because I believe, yes.
When you're a husk and then you come back with a slight weight problem. Doesn't look the best.
You've gone from husk to, sort of, let's face it, tubby fat ass pretty quickly after you've woken up. Yeah, that's problematic.
Yeah.
Overall, I felt Jason was a little bit stiff. I mean, obviously being a zombie, that was what they were going for. A very sort of lot of stiff robotic type of movements, which is what he did. I'm not as big on that interpretation of Jason as I was in, say, something like 4.
Yeah. I didn't mind Jason in this one. I actually liked the look, the gloves. And
the look was good.
Yeah, there was parts where I wasn't so big on it. It's
there were a couple of times too.
I felt like it fit because they went for the Frankenstein kind of comparison early on, and I felt like there was parts where that's what it was. There was kind of a mindless kind of aspect to it where. And
I did like some of the shots where he kind of, he's looking at something and then he kind of goes and just sort of turns his head, like when he walks up and the RV's rocking, and his sort of hockey mask comes into shot and then he kind of goes, and he actually gives it that kind of Michael Myers head tilt.
Yeah.
He sort of looks to see what's going on. But I just felt, as far as Jasons go, this is not one of my top.
Probably not the best.
No.
Probably not the best of the best.
But obviously, CJ Graham was given a slightly different requirement.
Yeah, I think he had a different character to work on, I guess.
Yeah.
I think what he was doing was what he was asked to do, I suppose. I get that sense.
Did it successfully, I guess.
Yep. So we talked a little bit about this, but Megan, like the
choices.
The choices. I'm on Dad's side here. Look, he just wants the best for you.
Yeah.
Flirting with the bloke in the
Tommy's a possible murderer.
Yeah. Flirting with the bloke in the lockup isn't the best idea.
No.
Okay? That's not where you want to be. I know it's a small town, choice, slim pickings, but the choice, that's not the choice.
Yeah.
It's not where you go.
No.
But then when you've kind of gone from that to, he's possibly murdered someone, but you're still keeping it on the down low. Yeah, I'll come pick you up.
Yeah.
That's just fucking...
Some poor choices. I felt that was possibly a little bit lazy in trying to get them together.
Yeah, I thought
by
it was
using
different. I thought they could have worked around it a little bit better.
Like that, they kind of sort of... If maybe he had more time, he could have come up with something a little more believable.
Yeah.
Because the only time she actually realises he didn't do it was when she asked about when they found the corpses.
He was with me.
He was with me. Okay, now you know he's not a murderer.
Prior to that, you're going on good faith here for a bloke that's been
exactly
been locked up.
And by the way, Dad tells you pretty soon that he'd been in a mental hospital.
Yeah. He's not ticking a lot of boxes.
No, look. If he's on Tinder, he's not. I think it's a swipe. Swipe right. So, I found the death of Martin and the 2 motorcyclists, that feels shoehorned in, and from what I believe, it was.
It was, yeah. Look, the picnicking couple, Martin.
Who the fuck's out having a picnic in the middle of the night?
Especially at Crystal Lake. I mean, I know they changed the name, but they looked old enough to know better. But also, the 2 initial campers, they were barely linked. They felt shoehorned as it was, even though they were kind of connected to the story. And they
a little bit less shoehorned than Martin and Cole.
The paintballers were the same. They were all they were in terms of the story was they were found, killed.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not as hard on those ones because I know, obviously, yes, you needed fodder. And those guys, and as you said, the paintball guys was a pretty random yet amusing way to get some fodder in.
Well, they were all entertaining enough.
Yeah.
But
But
none of them were
I felt the
connected.
two on the motorcycle, like that was a bridge too far. We at least knew Martin.
Any of them were just, they were just there. It probably stands out more because there's probably more of a story running through this one than there is in a lot of the other ones.
Yeah.
So when a couple of characters are just there to knock over, it's much more, it stands out much more. That's what I felt.
Not to lay the boot into five any further, but do you mean like the guy who turns up in his Corvette outside the diner and proceeds to go, "La la!" the whole fucking time while getting snorts of coca? Not a line of coke. And then get an axe buried in
Still
your
talking
head.
about Mara and Junior and the random bloody, the random drifter that rolls into town. Like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Random drifter that rolls in with a sign that says, "We'll clean chicken coops for a bowl of swill." And if you're around Crystal Lake, on the back of it, you've got painted for "fuck you" on the back of your sign as well.
But not fixes it, because you're spot on. A lot of those characters, those fodder characters, are pretty much disconnected from the rest of the story. But 6 does enough of a job to, as you say, make them interesting.
Makes them all interesting
Yeah.
enough. Like all of them, even the picnickers. I was kind of laughing at.
I
the
do
whole
like when she
scenario.
goes, we should really, and he's like, I've been working out, I'm sore. It's a messy act. All right. Like, there's a laugh to be had. And I
Yeah.
think that's the reason why I'll probably cut it a little slack.
Yep.
But that particular sequence, you can see it's been jammed in there.
It's too hard to.
It wasn't in the initial cut, I believe. They added it later.
Yeah.
And it just feels not right. It does, like, I think we could have done without it. And kept the Elias Voorhees at the end. I think that would have been just a nice switch.
Yeah, it would have been interesting to see where that went too.
Because, you know what?
Because guaranteed the next person would have run with it in some way and fucked
Well,
it up.
it would have been a cult. Sorry. Sorry, that's how it worked.
Yeah, he would have strolled in a black coat and blown the top off Jason's gravestone grave and taken him somewhere else.
The thing about it is, I would have approached Tom McLaughlin to do a sequel.
Yeah, but too busy pinching pennies, mate.
Yeah, well, they dropped the budget
But
to
also,
2.9 million.
it wasn't anywhere near as successful as
Yeah.
they wanted it to be.
I mean, if it had been a success, I could have seen them saying to him, well, where would you have gone
yeah,
with the next part of this? I tell you what I love about the sheriff, though. We need to get over to the camp. There's trouble. Jason is on the loose, says Tommy. Have you called over the camp? The phone's disconnected. So, sorry, you're not worried? The fucking phone is disconnected, and this bloke is telling you that a mass murderer is on the loose. You're hauling ass over there to check that out, aren't you?
yeah. But look, you're a two-person unit. You really,
but you
don't want to stretch. You don't want to stretch the wings.
You said
too far,
no, mate.
You don't want to spread the wings.
You do.
Yeah, but someone's got to get lunch. Someone's got to go down and visit what used to be Harold's store and get a case of food poisoning off the bloody donuts and sandwiches down there.
I felt that I would like to have seen the sheriff put up more of a fight. I mean,
Well, I felt as
Yeah.
Jason goes, he did.
as well as you can before you turn into a member of Cirque du Soleil. A permanent member of Cirque du Soleil because you've had your fucking head stuck up your own ass. But he shoots Jason, which is fine. But when he actually tackles him, he hits him with the rock maybe once or twice, and then he just gets bent in half.
Yeah, but before that, Like, obviously he shot him, but then when they're on the deck, he lays the boot in.
Yeah, I would like to have seen
Hits
him
him,
really
he rolls
sticking
him
in.
over, he hits him a couple of times.
I guess the thing was Jason was a unkillable machine, so
Yes.
you weren't really gonna get anywhere with that.
Yeah.
I mean, we had to save that type of thing for part 8.
By that point, he'd already been shot and walked it off. So,
Yeah,
the fact that he was on the deck and he'd given him a few.
Was a pretty good effort.
That was kind of where it was. Yeah, that I felt like relative to what had already happened to Jason, that was okay. But he still had the energy to fold you in half.
And the last thing for me was, Tommy, be more careful with the fucking gasoline in the boat. Because I'm telling you, that shit was everywhere.
The boat was I'm pretty sure
The moment he strikes the match, the entire boat goes up.
Your plans out. Yeah. When your boat's flaming, your boat's on fire, you're in trouble. I might have missed something, but I didn't quite get the ring of fire plan because Jason was coming from under the water, wasn't he?
Yeah, but I think his idea was that that was a tight circle. It was a tight circle.
Yeah, but you're required to be above the water.
But it meant that if Jason leapt up, he catches fire. I think that's the idea.
Really?
And he did. He did catch fire.
Yeah, that.
I mean, he walked it off.
Yeah, because he's in water. So all he's got to do is fucking dip back down and he's not on fire anymore.
Yeah, I'm not really quite sure. I think it was more for just visual effects.
It was visual effects.
Yeah, it was visual.
We know it was a visual. Let's put his boat in a ring of fire. Okay, we won't worry too much about why he's doing that or
Yeah.
anything. But because Tommy kept telling everyone he had a plan. I'm still like The Rock. Yeah, okay, I get that. Don't know what the rest of the plan
But
was.
see, I like the idea that take Jason back to where he belongs.
Yeah,
Which is
that
under
worked.
the water, where he drowned. I like that. Full circle
And
coming back.
it showed that Tom McLaughlin had read, or at least looked at, at least one of the previous
He
movies.
skimmed.
He skimmed. He read the Cliff Notes.
he said he watched them all back to back.
Yep. And he referenced the ones that probably should have been referenced,
Yeah, basically.
which wasn't much.
Because I even like the way they give a short. Megan gives that short speech about Jason and his mother.
Yeah,
And it's
and
only
then
for like
it's only
10
it's
seconds
about-
or 15
yeah.
seconds, but it just covers the
And
key
again, it's a
point.
bit of a piss take.
Yeah. And then she points to all the kids, you know.
Yeah.
I can only think of one thing worse.
Mm-hmm.
So, those things I liked. But yeah, Tommy, mate. Keep the gasoline. Like,
Yeah, be careful with that. Jesus.
yeah. Forget about fucking being drowned.
Tommy set the bloody pier on fire, the boat, everything's going up. It's he's been leaking it from the bloody car and set the camp on fire too. The kids were safe until you set the fucking cabin on fire, you idiot.
Oh, God. Any other dislikes for you?
No, that was it.
Pretty slim.
I felt it was a fair, I felt it was the spices were balanced in this.
Do you feel it
particular
mixed
thing.
well from a bouillabaisse, like from a bouillabaisse perspective?
What else can you put in there? A bit of Cajun spice, a bit of paprika.
I was calling it a gumbo, so we're on
Gumbo.
cross purposes here. You've got a bouillabaisse brewing, I've got a
but
gumbo.
I think you're acting. You're like Casey Ryback. You're talking about all the spices and how it needs to do this and that. So you're cooking the bouillabaisse. I think you thought you were cooking a gumbo, but you've ended up with a bouillabaisse because
Yeah,
you've got no fucking idea what you're doing.
Yeah, I thought it was a gumbo. I thought what you did is just threw things in a pot together.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what Casey Ryback was doing. Cigar was just talking rubbish.
No, he wasn't. He was fucking baking a cake. He was biffing up a cake. That's it. Shit, Ryback.
Yeah.
Ryback's tactics. I can tell you right now, but Ryback's tactics, once again, to be off the tangent here, but Ryback's tactics is a must-miss book. Now.
So you skipped to part 2. Part 2 was cooking a cake. Part 1, I'm sure it was a bouillabaisse.
Yeah, it was a bouillabaisse. I believe Gary Busey spat in it to give it an extra flavour.
Probably tasted better.
All right, that's Friday the 13th, part 6.
Cigar probably
Jason
got that recipe at the top of some fucking mystical mountain. Maybe he found the recipe in the Crystal Caves.
Oh, fucking hell. That guy, honestly, he's a menace. But that's Friday the 13th, part 6. Jason Lives. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Podomatic.
Deezer?
No response. Still waiting. Unless
Would you like another episode to listen to, Deezer?
they got access to our whole catalogue, so no wonder they haven't heard. We haven't heard.
Well, that's probably why we haven't heard from them. They love it so much that they're working their way through.
Yeah, I think not. Send us an email at thrillme@iinet.net.au. Like us on Facebook at Thrill Me Podcast Australia, Podomatic at thrillme.podomatic.com, and on Instagram at Thrill Me Podcast AU. I put out maybe that's why I've got Friday the 13th Part 5 on the brain. I put out an Instagram post of Demon getting impaled in the toilet and just put the line, "It's them damage." So maybe I got myself caught up in Part 5. I apologise for going off tangent. Keep an eye on our Facebook page for details of our next film. But until then, take it easy and we'll catch up with everyone later. Cheers. Find the podcast at Podomatic or on iTunes. Don't forget to rate and review. Like us on Facebook at Thrill Me Podcast Australia or contact us at thrillme, all one word, all lowercase, at iinet.net.au.